Wild Thing. Hi, I'm Kamala Murphy, and I am a Wild Thing Wannabe. Welcome to this episode of the Heart and Chutzpah podcast. So glad that you're here with us. Today, I wanted to share a little bit about being a wild thing at heart. As many of you know, I grew up in the San Francisco area during the 60s, and that was a really tumultuous time, especially well, I don't know about anywhere else, but I know that it was definitely in the Bay Area. There was, the Haight-Ashbury and all the hippies were coming in, and it was an interesting time. My upbringing was pretty strict. We were, well, my father had studied to be a priest, so maybe that gives you a little bit of an idea. We were just taught to be, my sister and I were taught to be ladies. We were to be ladylike, so nice and polite. And that was ingrained. And there's part of it that I like being a lady. But there's also this part of me is a little on the wild side. There's I told someone several years ago about my upbringing, and it's that I'm part good Catholic girl and part hippie chick. And that fits. I got a lot of acknowledgement for being nice and polite, a good girl. I think every single report card I received in grade school, she's just such a pleasure to have in class, and she's quiet and well behaved. Oh, well behaved. But that was acceptable. And like I say, I got acknowledgement for it. It was good to be a good girl until it wasn't so much. And, there's an interesting thing that I remember was in fourth grade, we had class pictures, and all of the kids were seated in rows. And the photographer had said, okay, we need to have everybody move in a little bit. So everyone sort of scooches. And I was in the center of the front row. And I didn't realize it at the time, of course, but when the picture was developed, when we got them, I was completely scooched in, not sitting up straight. My shoulders were in, I was sort of tilted to one side so that everybody else had plenty of room. And it was so interesting because in the picture, there's plenty of room on the outside, but we'd all scooched together. And I was just, taking up as little space as possible. I felt, in looking back, it was like I was boxed in. And I think that was how I lived my life. Then as time goes on, you as a teenager, you start to hear songs like Wild Thing, and something stirred, something really stirred. There was a part of me that had a heart of that hippie chick, who wanted to be more free to express herself. And it wasn't until probably late teens or early 20s that I actually felt like I had more permission to do things differently. I wasn't under my father's thumb anymore. And so just that freedom of expression. But I do realize that there's every now and then life is going along, and this happened recently. I'd gone on a trip to Belize and I came home and I just knew things have to change. I've gotten into little ruts, and hearing a song like Wild Thing, just sort of stirs that passion for doing things a little bit differently, moving a little bit, getting out of those ruts. So that's actually what I wanted to really share about today is like, we may go through times, and actually these times coming out of COVID, things are not going to be the same. There's no normal that we are accustomed to. So this is actually a perfect time for us, those of us who are well-behaved and good boys and girls, to experiment a little bit, let our wild thing out. And it doesn't have to be, I think, Lady Gaga and her meat dress. It doesn't have to be shocking, but it does. What are the inspirations that are just a little unexpected, a little outside of your typical? This is part of what I'm learning about right now. What are some things that are just a little out of my norm, that stretch me a little bit? Like, not that I don't dance all the time, but dancing in the kitchen, and maybe taking that belly dancing class, or talking about Wild Thing, and doing more recordings, things that are just stretching me. Actually, the other day I was on a call, and the facilitator said, something about what's a question that you can ask yourself today that will stretch you a little bit. Like, one of the things that came up was, how can you be a little more of a wild thing today? And I don't know if you can hear it, but just even when I think of that music, Wild Thing, it stirs a sense of joy and a sense of freedom up in me. Maybe it does for you too. Or maybe there's another song or another song or piece of music that does that for you. So maybe listen to that today. What are some of the things that you want to shake up in your life? Yeah. What are some things that are just fun for you and make you smile, make you laugh, give you a sense of joy? Maybe things that get you excited about doing things differently and challenge you, instead of allowing ourselves to be good girls or good boys, and allowing our heart of a wild thing to have its expression too. We get to be both, because we're not just both, we're complicated creatures. We have many parts. So acknowledging all of our parts and embracing all of our parts, whether it's the good girl or good boy, or the wild thing. So I encourage you today to just find ways to embrace all of who you are. So that's it for now. Thank you so much for listening in. Have a great week. And until next time, take care and blessings. Have fun.